I asked Tyler, I said, Tyler, how in the world did you go from sleeping in your car in New Orleans and sleeping in your car in Atlanta, Georgia, building a $145 million production studio? You know what he told me? Nothing but the grace of God.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Black Excellence Daily. I'm your host, Sean Croxton. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to wrap this week up with Dr. Dennis Kimbro, who is the author of two of my favorite books. Number one is Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. Number two is The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires. It never really dawned on me until today that both of these books have titles that include the word choice. And that's because success, whatever success may look like to you, is really a choice. It doesn't really come down. It's not really about, I should say, your circumstances, your conditions, where you're from, who your parents were. It's really a choice. Successful people have so many different backgrounds, so many different stories. Tyler Perry used to sleep in his car. Steve Harvey used to go to hotel bathrooms, wet up some towels with water and some soap, go in a stall and give himself a bath in a bathroom stall, right? If you ever watch those videos on Instagram, School of Hard Knocks, it ends with a Z, right? Knocks. The guy goes around, he interviews highly successful people of all different races and ethnicities and genders. And he usually asks them, did you come from money? And almost all of them say, absolutely not. Like, I grew up poor. And so we can all do this. It is possible. We just have to put our minds to it and choose, what do we want, and decide whether or not we are committed to that goal. Because like Lisa Nichols says, most of us want convenience. We want it to be convenient. We don't want it to be hard. There's a big difference between convenience and conviction. We have to have conviction for our commitments so we can continue to do the things and also deal with the obstacles that are on our path to what we want. But remember, that whole path is a choice. Obstacle hits, got to make a choice. Do I stay on the path or do I quit? Another obstacle hits, make another choice. Another obstacle, make another choice. Plan doesn't go right, make another choice. That's what it is. It's a journey of continuous choices that have to be made. And the biggest choice is, do you choose to be successful or do you not? Dr. Dennis Kimbro is coming up.
But there's that book, The Wealth Choice. And over a 7-year period, I did nothing but interview, survey, and held focus groups on Black millionaires. That's all I did. If you weren't 7 figures and you weren't African-American, there was no need for us to talk. I was completely focused on that particular segment and demographic. And when I started, now I know we all read The Millionaire Next Door by Tom Stanley. I know we read that. When Stanley is in his 2nd year of that book, and he was marketing professor at Georgia State, 4 miles from my office in Clark, Atlanta. His 2nd year into the research, the Census Bureau not only told Stanley how many white millionaires in the United States, they gave him zip codes. So Stanley wrote a 247-question survey based on the zip codes supplied by the Census Bureau, attached a dollar bill to it, and stuffed mailboxes. Unbelievable response rate back. So here's your dear old professor. I'm in the 2nd year of my research, and I didn't call up the Census Bureau. No, I drove down to the regional office, and I sat down with 2 social scientists. I told them what I was working on. Forget knowing where Black millionaires live. They didn't even know how many Black millionaires in the United States. But the Lord spoke to me, as he so often does, and less than 2 months later, I had a speaking engagement. Weird. Less than a mile from the Census Bureau. And who was the client? The Federal Reserve. And I go in there, and after my presentation, a couple of them knew me. Doc, what are you working on now? And I told them, and I said, I'm at a quandary, I'm at a conundrum. I need to know how many Black millionaires out there and where they're located. And they said, man, that's easy. I said, you got the data? And they gave me the data. I said, there's two ways you can go about this. There are 112,000 African-American households with a net worth of $1 million or more, or there are 35,000 single individuals. I said, I'm going to work on the single individuals. So number one, I came up with a full-blown survey. I asked these black millionaires 118 questions, and I asked them complete it anonymously. Some of them wrote their name on the survey when they returned it back to me. Some of them attached a business card on them, because I was asking some proprietary information when it came down to the financials. So number one, full-blown survey. Number two, I had 6 focus groups around the country. I started off, I said, there was a Black Wall Street in Raleigh-Durham. I said, let me start off in Raleigh-Durham. There were about 45 black millionaires in that room. I had a huge focus group in Washington, D.C. There were no less than 100 black millionaires in that room in Washington, D.C. Bob Johnson, the founder of BET, was in that room. Carla Harris, most powerful black woman on Wall Street, was in that room. Michael and Steve Roberts, the Roberts brothers, they own 12 hotels around the country. They were in that room, so I was in hog heaven. Then I had another focus group. I had 3 focus groups in the Atlanta area. I had one in Omaha, and then I had a small one, a little boutique focus group out in Las Vegas with just black females. And ladies, as you know, you're about 18% of black millionaires, and you guys are growing exponentially off the roof. And then last but not least, when I started out, I said, I don't want any athletes. I don't want any actors or actresses. I don't want any entertainers. Now, I've had athletes and entertainers and blah, 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 asked to be a part of it. And I said, no, man, Dr. Kimbro, how was it? I said, I'm after wealth, not income. Big difference. But obviously, when it came time for the 50 to 60 face-on-face interviews, there were some folks I had to include. And like I said, I interviewed Steve Harvey. Great time with Tyler Perry. I asked Tyler, I said, Tyler, how in the world did you go from sleeping in your car in New Orleans and sleeping in your car in Atlanta, Georgia, building a $145 million production studio? You know what he told me? Nothing but the grace of God. Spent a day with Kirk Franklin. I said, Kirk, you come from a small town in Texas, man. You didn't make one fortune, you made 2. How in the world did you pull this off? You know what he said to me? There's something sweet about that name, Jesus. Oh, I thought I was in church, man. So you name them, I interviewed, and there is the result. And what can I tell you? What is the bottom line? Wealth is not a function of circumstance. It's not a function of condition, not a function who your mom and daddy are, not a function where you were born, not a function of your contacts, not a function of your education, but it is a function of choice. And it is a function of faith. And it is a function of discipline, forsaking today for tomorrow.
That was Dr. Dennis Kimbro wrapping up our week. You can watch today's entire talk on YouTube. It is called Putting It All Together, Success and Greatness with Dr. Dennis Kimbro. All right, enjoy your weekend. Please leave a rating and or review for the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Follow me on the Instagram at Sean Croxton. And I'll see you on Monday. I'm out. Peace.